Good evening. I'm Jane Harf, and I want to welcome you here this evening. I appreciate all of you coming and joining us for the third stop on Ohio's Energy Future Tour. We're very pleased to be at the University of Dayton, and I want to thank especially the Hanley Sustainability Institute for their generous co-sponsorship of this event. It's a new unit, a new part of campus that has grown from some of the other activities that you've had here for some time, and I think it's very exciting, and you'll be hearing more about it as the evening progresses. I also want to thank Leanne Jablonski, who has been my eyes and ears and hands and feet on campus as we planned this, and she has done great work in getting everything from the food to the room to the agendas. So thank you, Leanne. I have the pleasure of introducing the mayor, who I just got the high sign that she just came in. So when she gets here, I will start her introduction. We're very pleased to have Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley with us tonight. She was originally from next door in Indiana, but she's lived in Dayton since she attended the University of Dayton. We have quite a few University of Dayton alumni here this evening, as well as current students and faculty and members of the community. She also received a master's in public administration from Wright State University, where she has served as an adjunct professor. Nan was first elected to the Dayton City Commission in 2005 as the youngest woman ever chosen for a commission seat. She served on the Montgomery County Board of Elections and as a deputy to Montgomery County Auditor Carl Keith. Nan is the founder of the Manufacturing Task Force, a regional effort committed to advocating for manufacturing and promoting a strong manufacturing workforce, which is another topic of our conversation this evening. Among the sustainability initiatives that Nan supports is making Dayton a bicycle-friendly community. She chairs the Bike Walk Dayton Committee, encouraging these healthy and energy-efficient activities. And as much as I hate to bring, I know you've just rushed in from Columbus, I appreciate you being here, and now that I've introduced you, if you would like to say a few remarks, we would be very pleased. Well, good evening.
Hi there.
I see some friendly faces here. Thank you for the kind remarks, and it's true, I ran back from Columbus today to join you this evening. Let me just make a couple of opening comments. First, I'm really pleased that the University of Dayton is agreeing to host this and that you all are here to talk about opportunities for really sustainability and the opportunities that does to create jobs across the state of Ohio. And what we noticed in the cities across the state is that this work, while we had an opportunity to do it statewide, we really see it happening more in cities when it comes to our discussions with electric aggregation, opportunities for us to really envision what it can be and what the communities can do coming together to make sure that we have sustainable solutions for energy supply. One example in Dayton I think that we are looking into and starting to explore is the opportunity of geothermal. We have we think the world's best aquifer here in the city of Dayton. I think we can validate that too. That opportunity for us to use that water supply source not only for our good quality drinking water every day, but to see how we can use it for opportunities to create a more effective and cheaper way for people to heat and cool their homes and their companies. And you can see that example, for instance, at Dayton Art Institute, which is one of the geothermal reuses in one of the older buildings, and then the newer building of CareSource, which is also geothermal. So we see those opportunities every day in Dayton and new builds and rebuilds, but how we can really scale that is something that we look to work on in the future. And so I just want to say thank you all for being here, for having this conversation. We think that there are going to be opportunities for us to really grow jobs and grow opportunities not only in the city of Dayton, but in the region and hopefully across the state. And these kind of conversations are going to be key for us if we're going to make sure that we have the policies in place, not only in cities and communities, but across the state of Ohio to really leverage that. So with that, I want to thank you all for having me, and thank you for being here, and hope we have a great and fruitful discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce our moderator for this evening, who is going to keep everybody on time and on message and make sure that we have enough chance to have some conversation as well. John Suryak is the founder and CEO of Go Sustainable Energy. Go Sustainable Energy was founded in 2006 and has since grown to 11 staff members with offices in Dayton, Columbus, and Cleveland. John has led the development of their unique business strategy of being an industry leader in energy auditing, energy simulation, commissioning, and M&V, while pioneering next stage state-of-the-art consulting services. He also serves as a board member for Ohio Advanced Energy Economy, which is one of the organizations in our coalition putting together the tour, one of our primary hosts really for the Ohio's Energy Future Tour. And he serves as the energy efficiency expert to the Ohio Manufacturers Association. Another UD grad, he received his bachelor's and master's degree in mechanical engineering, and he is a licensed professional engineer. John?
Thank you, Jane. And all that was to make me qualified to moderate today's panel. No, good evening. It is really nice to be here on such a beautiful day. And I have to say, as an alumni walking across campus, I was just a little bit tempted to skip and just go right back to my old house. I know the university is getting greener these days, which on March 16th means green beer in the student neighborhood, among other things. So maybe on the walk back. We'll see. I'm not driving back to Columbus. So a couple things I get to do as moderator. One of the first ones is remind everyone that we're not allowed to have food and drink in Sears Recital Hall. And we'll see if I do as good a job enforcing that, looking out in the crowd as I do with my own children to take the food and drinks off the couches. But just keep a note, don't spill anything if you've got it and you're not technically supposed to have it. Biographies of our speakers. We have two great panels and a number of panelists, and there are biographies on a handout that you may have picked up, and we'll let you read those at your own leisure, but we have a lot of qualified people here. If you'd like to know where they're coming from and some of their experience, you can read that. And then lastly, last bit of information, there are comment cards. I'm not sure if you have the comment cards or they're out. Where are the comment cards? We'll point you out to the comment cards. This is the third stop on the tour. We've got 3 more, and there's a number of organizations that are sponsoring and cooperating on the tour that do other public events as well. And I think what these tour stops do is give a great opportunity to listen to the experts and the business leaders and the public leaders about their thoughts on energy. But we want to hear from the public too, including what is useful, what you might have liked to hear that you didn't, how we can best get you engaged or how you might want to be engaged. So filling out the comment cards is really important, and we'll take your feedback. And then just to tell you a bit about the format today, we have 2 panels. So our first panel is, make sure I get the name right, The Business of Clean Energy, Creating Jobs, Reducing Costs, and Driving Innovation. And the second panel is Building a Sustainable Future. Energy is a catalyst for robust and resilient regions. So we'll have each panelist talk for about 5 minutes about the topic, and then we'll have, when they're done, about 15 minutes for question and answers. So think hard, think of your hardest question for the folks up here, and then we'll have a closing at the end. So without too much more time, let me introduce our first set of panelists. We have on the far end, Stu Dahlheim. Yes. Vice President of Shareholder Advocacy for Calvert Investments. We have Michael Burning, Director of Business Development and Sustainable Design for HEPE. Did I get it all right? Very good. Okay. Nadia Turek, Director of Sustainability Services for Wolper. Greg Smith, President of Energy Optimizers, and Mark Wiley, President of Kastle Solar. And so why don't we just, want to start with Stu, and we'll just come right on down the line.
Well, that probably makes sense for me to go first because I'll be pretty big picture. I work for Calvert Investments. We're a $13 billion asset manager based in Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. And Calvert invests in economic sectors across the market, and companies of all ranges, different sizes, and across jurisdictions as well, although most of our investment is here in the United States. So Calvert takes a look at sustainability issues when we invest in companies. We see both risk and opportunity. And climate and energy issues are two of areas of major focus for us. So when we look at a company to invest in, we think about whether or not they're exposed to a broad range of risks related to climate change, whether physical risks, regulatory risk, risk in changing demand, consumer preference, prices of energy. But of course, with that risk, there comes a great deal of opportunity. So when we take a look at a company, we're looking at their ability to assess that risk, manage that risk, but also increasingly looking at the upside, the opportunity that these companies face. And Calvert is not alone in seeing climate change and energy issues as a major investment opportunity and risk again. There's something called the Carbon Disclosure Project, which you may have heard about. It's an international coalition of investors with hundreds of institutional investors globally who have more than $50 trillion in assets under management collectively as a group. So this group of investors every year sends a survey to the thousands of the largest companies in the world, asking these companies, what do you know about your climate risk? What do you know about how you're going to address energy efficiency? What are you doing about the opportunities to invest in renewables? So Calvert is certainly not alone in this effort. And I think you'll see increasingly that investors are paying more and more attention to this. And for us, a big part of the opportunity comes from a policy environment. So we know that federal policy, international policy, state policy plays a critical role in driving where our energy goes, where our energy future goes, where investments are made, long-term investments especially. So when we're looking into corporate investments, and we know that the companies that we invest in are thinking about where they will site their facilities, where they'll make investments in data centers, for example, in the IT industry. They're thinking about policy that will help facilitate their investment in clean energy. We look at the utility industry, for example, and we think about a business model that has relied for generations on large centralized power plants. And we wonder if that's the way of the future, if those companies can afford to remain largely regulated monopolies in many cases that have protection for their market and depend on large centralized fossil fuel sources when there are so many forces moving in the other direction. And I guess one of the major forces in the energy field is, and you'll see this across the economy, is greater flexibility, greater choice, greater resilience, decentralization. And in the energy industry, that is certainly the case. And we're seeing large corporate purchasers of energy want to take advantage of this flexibility. Calvert produced a report last year called Power Forward. We did this with Ceres, which is an investor environmental coalition based out of Boston. We looked at the largest 100 companies in the United States and their efforts to invest in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And the good news is that 60 of those 100 largest companies have stated goals, stated targets to reduce energy use, to invest in renewable energy. And these companies are reporting significant savings from those investments as well. There's a lot of money for these large companies like AT&T, Cisco, Walmart to be made in investments in energy efficiency and renewables. So it's becoming a mainstream fact of life among large companies. Another key finding of this report, though, is that these companies are making siting decisions based on the availability of renewable energy based on state level policy in many cases that gives them the opportunity to put a new data center in a state where they have wind energy, as Facebook decided to do. Facebook chose Iowa for a data center in part because of the reliability and availability of wind energy. And they've said that all their data centers, existing data centers and future data centers, they want to make them all renewable energy powered. We've seen other companies as well. American Express chose to move to North Carolina instead of Michigan, in part because a better renewable energy standard in the state of Michigan. We saw eBay work with Utah legislatures to basically add flexibility to the electricity market, which allowed eBay to purchase renewable energy directly from the developer rather than having to go through a utility. All this to say that state policy is very fundamental in attracting business and attracting jobs. And I know Ohio's already benefited from this, but I think there's a lot more on the table. And major companies that we're investing in are paying attention to that.
Great. It's no fair if you finished right on time. But as all of us will attest to, we're all part of green companies that have green jobs, and I see some of our employees here in the room that are part of our green infrastructure in our own company, and UD graduates too. So go Flyers. I remember being here a few decades ago or more as a graduate, as an undergrad, studying to make the perfect solar collector, or at least improve solar collectors. That's why I went off to mechanical engineering. And so there's been green jobs around forever in this community. We've just been quite quiet about it up until recently. But HEPE Engineering is about 180 plus person firm. We've got offices across the stretch of Indiana, Ohio here. And we have a fairly involved sustainability practice. So we have a lot of green jobs. And our whole goal is to focus on energy efficiency. Actually, that's our mission for our clients. Our goal internally and externally for our clients is to beat energy codes that are the national energy, state energy codes, to have every one of our projects actually beat those codes, not meet them, not to get close to them, but find ways to creatively accomplish that, and accomplish that with much success and dollar savings for our clients. So it is doable. It's very doable. We do it all the time. We deliver projects on project cost, and they're saving dollars in addition to that. So how can it be a bad deal? It definitely has reduced costs. We've saved our clients millions of BTUs, probably billions actually, over the years with our projects. And the neat thing about when you save those dollars, all of us are companies that are doing all this, is that money stays in the community. So what's it doing here locally to impact, instead of sending it off to some utility company or something, it can grow some other part of the community and stay here, and we can put it in a bank and retire on it, whatever it is. But there's a lot of benefits to doing this that's just outside of not paying a higher utility bill. The thing that concerns me personally as I got started in this is we have to look long term. Sure, we have fracking, and we have all this great energy that's being drawn out of the ground, and we have plenty of natural gas now that we can use, and it's cheap and inexpensive, relatively speaking, and that's great. So now, what happens 20 years from now when maybe that resource isn't so available, or it's more expensive to extract more and more out of the ground? And if we do what we've done in our state and put our energy standards, our energy goals on hold for 2 years to figure out is this smart to save energy and save dollars, do we really need 2 years to ask that question? You've got a situation here where if we don't invest in these renewables, if we don't invest in doing some alternative form of energy, the rest of the world's going to use the energy. What was the cost of coal 15 years ago? It was cheap. They were closing coal mines. You just couldn't dig the stuff out and get paid cost of our energy is going up, not because we're doing things wrong, it's because the rest of the world wants it and needs it, and because they want to have, you know, a 3-bedroom ranch on the end of the cul-de-sac. And, you know, so when you move up, you need more energy. So it's just those kind of concerns that we get affected locally from the internationally, and it's what can we do to help our clients. And in the process of helping our clients, we've got plenty of clients who like what we do. We hire a lot of people, a lot of beauty grads, a lot of Wright State grads, a lot of other grads from across the country to create these green jobs and help our clients save the dollar. So beneficial all the way around from what we see. And the good thing is, and I know there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of you in here, or we're just all just dumb looking generally. But you know, we attract good quality people from across the country because we are doing the green commit, which is what this next generation is looking to do. So I think we can all attest to that in hiring because of what our core philosophies are for our companies.
Hello, I'm Nadia Turek with Wolpert. I was thinking about leprechauns on my way over here. My first grader is making leprechaun traps at school. And I think that's neat because it's engineering and you design something, you construct something, but I'm really worried about tomorrow. He doesn't catch a leprechaun. I was hoping probably this audience is not in that boat, but I hope that people don't think that green jobs are like leprechauns, are figments of our imagination. Green jobs are real, and I am one. I was on active duty in the Air Force for 7 years, 3 more in the reserves, and after a decade of service post 9/11, when I decided to change gears and lead a different life with my family, I decided to stay here in Dayton, Ohio. And as I was looking around for employment, I had the privilege of interviewing with a VP at Wolpert who said to me, my clients are asking me about sustainable design, and they're asking me about energy efficiency, and I don't feel like we have good enough answers for them. And I'm wondering, can you help us with that? And I said yes, and that's been my green job. So when I hired on with Wolpert 7 years ago, it was into a job that didn't previously exist. It was really a green job. And it's been a pleasure to be able to provide sustainable design and energy efficiency services and see other jobs at Wolpert grow out of that. I think that if our government, state, local governments need to look and see whether government can provide leadership in this space, they need to look no further than our federal agencies in the Department of Defense. For instance, they've set a requirement to reduce their energy use intensity, that's the amount of energy per square foot of their built environment, by at least 30% by 2015. It's an ambitious, ambitious goal. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, our largest employer here in the area, their energy bill is $36 million a year. So energy efficiency provides serious savings that they can put back into warfighting. We have the pleasure of having a contract to design schools for the Department of Defense education activity. That's the school system of the military. So that really gets me excited about going to work to contribute to designing 21st century cutting edge schools that are also high performance sustainable buildings for the children of our military service members. We designed a school that's currently under construction at Fort Campbell. It's called Barkley Elementary School. Barkley Elementary School is 59% more efficient than the energy code. It's going to be lit 88% of the time by daylight. It uses 25% less water than the code requirements. And it's going to save the school district at Dodia, our client, over $100,000 a year in utility expenses. And that's money they can, of course, put back into their educational mission. So those are really rewarding projects. And so on the one hand, I'd like you to think, wow, those Wolpert folks, they're great, 59% more efficient than the energy code, that's awesome. Please feel free to walk away and feel that. But you might also think to yourself, maybe that code is too easy. Maybe if somebody can deliver a 21st century state-of-the-art school on budget, 59% better than the code, maybe there's room for that code to improve. Maybe the bar could come up. Because frankly, there's plenty of buildings, unfortunately, out there being built barely to code, right? Not all of our clients are asking for high-performance green buildings like the great DoD clients I have the pleasure of working with. So Barclay is an example of new construction, a new building. And my last thought is we really need to also turn a lot of our attention to our existing building stock. Our existing buildings are the bulk of our energy use when it comes to building energy usage. And we have an exciting collaboration with some researchers here at the University of Dayton. One of my roles at Wilbert is as a research facilitator. And we've flown aerial thermal imagery of this campus, of Wright State University's campus, of a number of military installations, to use that thermal imagery to leverage it to find energy losses, heat losses, to also combine that with utility data and building energy modeling, and do what we call information-based auditing of existing building stocks. The idea being that we can hopefully speed up the process by which we can identify our worst offenders, the buildings most in need, and bring investment dollars to those worst first buildings. I liked your point about investing in energy efficiency. And that's a neat program we have ongoing with our collaborators here at UD. So.
Greg Smith, Energy Optimizers USA. What we do is, and actually I'll take a second to say both Keepy and Wolpert, some of the hidden gems that we have here in Dayton that we take for granted. Two of the firms right here that's national leaders, and we take that for granted. You know, very similar to right at Air Force Base, University of Dayton. I just want to take a second to recognize that, because quite frankly, we have built a company that is built on companies maybe not like the two people sitting next to me that did not design buildings very efficiently or with sustainability in mind. So we have made a focus on Ohio K-12 schools on energy efficiency, so working with existing buildings that's already been built to reduce their entry costs. We actually started our company, myself, didn't tell my wife that before I left the training company. But we made it work, thank God, so I'm still married with 4 kids. So we grew the company, quite frankly, a month and a half ago, I was at about 47 people in about 5 years. We recently sold our lighting retrofit company, which was a struggle for me, but the ability to focus on one company, Energy Optimizers, so we still do lighting. So really what we do is we will work with school districts, identify their facilities, do an audit. We're vendor neutral, so it's not what we manufacture, very similar to both Keepy and Wolpert sitting beside me. What's in their best interest? What's the best return on investment? How can they save the most money the quickest while meeting their needs? My father-in-law is a farmer, and God love him, he does a lot of things that I can't do, and I probably do some things he doesn't do. And he always asks me, he says, Greg, you could sell, ice to an Eskimo. I'm like, I don't know, Harold, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, but the difference is I wouldn't. There's so many opportunities everywhere we walk to reduce energy, and just as important is save money. Our slogan is saving you money while saving the environment. That's a great byproduct that we do have, but there's not too many treasurers or CFOs that I work with every day that's going to give us $1 million, $2 million to be good stewards of the environment. That's neither here nor there what your thoughts are on that, but it's real. So we really focus on saving money, and our engineers went back and looked in the last 5 years of how much money we've actually saved Ohio K-12 school districts, and it's over $8 million per year. So that just keeps building, because they're going to continue to build that every year that we do more projects. And if you tell a superintendent, what can you do, with $8 million in savings? How many teachers is that? How many school teachers is that? How many buses? What kind of IT can we put back into the education? People always ask me, why do you focus on K-12? you know, A, there's a need. You know, B, I learned a lot from another gym that we have right here that most people don't know about, you know, Aileron. That is a great, you know, resource if, you know, you can Google it, especially if you're in business. But it really teaches you focus, and I think that's what our company has done. You know, there's so many different avenues, as Michael has said, you know, as well, you know, that you can do whatever you want to do. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes that's kind of hard because you want to do everything. But we decided, let's do something, let's try to do it really good. So we did that, and that's another reason, you know, I did sell a lighting company. So we continue to focus on energy efficiency, so we can do lighting, HVAC, building envelope, doors, windows, solar. And the nice thing is, we collaborate with all the people, you know, at this table, quite frankly, because we don't really compete. We help each other by using, you know, the resources that we all have. You know, if you're younger and saying what kind of career I want to go into, you know, the sky's the limit. You know, we've got, you know, mechanical engineers. You know, the energy program that they have here at UD is awesome. They, you know, similar to the two beside me, we've got 5 or 6 engineers from the UD program. And it's hard for us to go elsewhere because there's such quality energy engineers with mechanical backgrounds, electrical engineers, you know, sales, marketing, project managers. So the careers are just endless, quite frankly, in this field. And I don't think it's not stopping. It's you know, the moon's the limit. And if you're younger, you know, it's a great field to go in, no matter whether you want to go into sales, whether you want to go into project management, engineering, project development. You know, so it's a great field, and you know, I'm fortunate to make that decision 5 years ago and to really focus on what we've done.
My name is Mark Wiley. I'm the president of the Kastle Solar Company, based here in Dayton, Ohio. Kastle Electric's a 90-year-old electrical contracting business that's been here in Dayton that entire time. About 5 years ago, I left another large company in the area and joined with Kastle CEO Andy Stuhlmiller to establish the solar company as a way to broaden our services, leverage some of our expertise, and start a new segment of business. We've invested in training and resources to leverage those skills that we already had in-house. A number of highly trained electrical technicians and engineers and estimators. So what we set out to do was, you know, take advantage of the growth that we saw in the solar PV market. We've partnered with Greg's company on a couple of key initiatives and continue to work in that direction. Over the company's history, we've been involved in a number of large commercial projects around Dayton, MCR World Headquarters, the Reynolds & Reynolds Building, the University of Dayton, the downtown buildings at Kettering Tower, and so forth. So for us to take that connection and move along with people like Wilbert and some of the other engineering firms in the area, it's been a real plus for us to be able to work within that composition and move the business forward. A couple of things that we're involved in right now, it's interesting to hear you talk about the new building designs that you're involved with, because we're today building a net zero building for the Cincinnati Police Headquarters in District 3 in Cincinnati. That's a 40,000 square foot, 2-story building that will house the new police district in city center of Cincinnati. And we will be installing about 330 kW of solar array on the roof. And so that solar array will produce enough power to completely offset the consumption of the building over a year's time. So the sustainability of that net zero design is very achievable. It's out there today. It's within reach. And I echo your comments about how high are the standards, where do they need to be? I think we should think further. We can push the envelope further. The other project that we're involved with, Greg's company on, that we're really excited about, is with the Adams County, Ohio Valley School District in Adams County, Ohio. It's one of the poorest counties in the state. It's also one of the counties that's most exposed to coal burning. If you've ever spent any time down along the Ohio River, it's a beautiful spot. But one of the things you start to notice are a lot of the metal roofs on the barns at the farms. They deteriorate really fast. folks have to change them out because of all the fallout from the coal burning. But the folks at Adams County have been very good about planning forward. They have a school building. They've replaced their entire district. They have one of their elementary buildings that was a winner of a National Green Ribbon Award for energy efficiency. So they have designed to the standards and beyond, and they've continued to invest in additional solar power so that they can offset their consumption. We feel like our experience with photovoltaic technology is something that's going to grow into the future. We think that there are more advances, there are improvements, there are opportunities down the road. We've seen a number of trade shows where we're seeing improvements in battery technology, energy storage. Somebody's here from that part of the segment of the economy, and I see that as a future for us. So to sum up, Kastle's growth through this 5-year period of innovation has been really good to establish us as a forward-looking small company in the area. And we hope to continue and work with the University of Dayton, Wright State University, and some of our other clients to continue to grow that effort. So thank you.
Right, we've got time for questions for the first panel here. First hand up, right here in the blue.
District 3 building. I'm sorry?
It's a net zero building.
Correct.
How much more money, capital cost, does that building cost to be net zero? And what's the utility saving?
I can't tell you the total investment in the building because there are a number of other technologies involved as well. For instance, the heating and air conditioning system is a geothermal system, and I have no insight into what that cost was. I can tell you that our PV system was about $750,000. It'll produce enough power and be guaranteed for 25 years of power production for that building, to the point where it'll essentially wash out their electrical costs year over year. I do know that CMTA was a architect on the project, but they incorporated a lot of daylighting planning. You know, from my perspective, being involved with that project, what I saw was, and you could probably expand on this, I see a very detailed forward-thinking planning effort that went into that building. They thought about the operations inside the building, how often the police were going to have to plug in their portable radios for recharging, thinking about how that load's managed and how it's disconnected and reconnected and needs to be used. So I think there were a significant number of dollars spent probably. I can't tell you what that premium was, but I can tell you I think more than that, the important part is people had a design in mind and a plan in mind based on what was going into that building, and they did a really great job about executing on that.
Well, on the PV part, do you know what the payback is in years?
I would guess around 12 years.
Thank you. Yes, right here.
Okay, my question is, on an existing building, how much does that cost to make it into a viable alternative energy and a commercial building, say? And how much longer does it take for that company that owns that building to recoup their investment?
That's a great question. There are a number of elements to think about in that question. Every building, every situation is going to be very different. There are a number of things that you need to consider, like structure of the building, the existing infrastructure within the building, mechanical, electrical systems. The investment today would qualify for a 30% investment tax credit. So the tax liability of that organization has a big effect on what their payback looks like. If they're a tax-paying organization, they're going to take full advantage of that 30%. In addition to that, they're going to receive accelerated depreciation on that investment as well, which is another component of tax savings that they can take, in-house. All those things are apart from how much power that system produces and is able to offset within the building. So it's a pretty detailed analysis.
One thing, you don't really know the answer because we don't even know building, but you can do an audit, and audits are pretty inexpensive these days, especially when Dayton Power and Light has a incentive program, rebate program on energy audits. If you're a Dayton Regional Green Initiative Green Certified Business, you can get a free energy audit if you're a small business here in our community, in the 14 counties around here. I'm the co-chair of the Green Initiative here regionally, and we've been working with DP&L and Vectren and others to get the rebates. In fact, you get the rebates if you're a green certified business in town. You get 150% of the regular rebate if you're actually a green certified business. So go to drg3.org or drg.org and just click in there and go to the green certification business, and green business certification program tab, and you get all that information, and you have vendors that supply that type of, call Greg or me, or not, basically. And, but there's all kinds of great information on that website. Montgomery County just hosted that, and it's a great thing. So start with an audit, then you can figure out from there what the paybacks are. But if you've got an old building, in this community, and you haven't done anything to it, I can't imagine you can't get 10 to 20% right off the top and doing some energy efficiency. It's just, you look at what has been done on campuses and on just businesses in general in our community. We've got a LEED Platinum headquarters building, and when we went from LEED Silver for the building certification, building construction, to LEED Platinum under operations and maintenance, which was how we operate the building, we found an additional almost $10,000 in energy savings just because technology had changed over the 10 years between those certifications. And so there's always advancements that are happening, so always look at that. Go to that website; it's great site information. And to your question about how much actually did it cost, we've designed and had green buildings that are LEED Gold certified that were never intended when they were in the programming stage to be a LEED building at all. So there's no dollar set aside for LEED or commissioning or any of that. That came in under project budget. Great State University Diggs Lab is a LEED Gold lab, first lab certified gold in the state of Ohio. It was 4% under project budget. And University of Toledo had a $25 million classroom building that's like 2% under project budget, LEED Gold. It was never intended to be that when they first programmed the building 6 years previous to that. So if you do it smartly, you can actually end up cost neutral.
Great. Got a question right here.
Couple follow-up questions. First, the tax credit, 30%. What is that?
It's a federal tax credit, investment tax credit, ITC, if you look it up in the
ITC.
tax credit, investment tax credit, 30% of the cost of the qualified system, qualified property, I believe is the IRS lingo.
Okay.
And you get 30% of that back in your first tax return. If you can't eat it all at once, you can carry it forward.
Is there a minimum square footage on that? Because I know that there was a tax credit before it was passed.
That's perhaps you're referring to the state program,
Okay.
which
This is
federal.
Okay.
The state program is defunct and no longer available, but through 2016, the ITC is still available.
And then secondly, you mentioned incentives, the rebate program. Thoughts on Senate Bill 310 passing that?
Senate Bill 310,
The passage of Senate Bill 310.
the one that froze our goals to be energy efficient here in the state of Ohio.
Yes.
You can imagine my thoughts.
Well, I heard somebody from
Ask you to answer, man.
Yeah, I heard somebody from the Ohio Manufacturing Association earlier, but I thought that they were lobbying for that, the passage of that.
Well, they opposed it.
Pardon?
They opposed it.
They opposed it? Okay.
Yes.
I will say that up till now, DP&L has maintained their efficiency programs, to their credit. So although the state mandates are frozen, although they don't have a state mandate
there's another component to it. The renewable portfolio standard in Ohio requires that all 4 investor-owned utilities in Ohio comply with a escalating requirement for renewable power generation. In order to achieve that, there is a market that's been developed that the utilities can go out and purchase things called renewable energy certificates. So anyone, even a homeowner who has a solar system on their house, will produce power over time and in turn produce those certificates and then can sell them on the open market. SB 310 dropped the bottom out of that market. It took the price of solar SRECs from $150 an SREC to about $35 an SREC. So today what's happening is all the investment capital that's going towards solar is going to other states that have a more robust program and therefore a more robust SREC market. So there's a huge negative effect instantly from 310. It just dropped the bottom out of that market.
Can I segue onto that to Stu? Stu, you talked a lot about data centers and those companies that have data centers having requirements for renewable energy, so they look for siting. Do you know if there's any specific examples, this is a rhetorical question, of data centers that are looking to Ohio that have found it challenging to come here because of the freeze on renewable portfolio standards?
I don't actually, I don't know that. But I know, Google has, a commitment to 100% renewables. Amazon is just entering this. Amazon Web Services, which is, huge data center needs, huge electricity demand, just made a commitment to go 100% renewables. So these big IT companies especially seem to be in sort of a space race to get to 100% renewables. They're all competing to go faster. So it's definitely happening.
Yeah. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. VJ.
So my question is for Greg Smith. So you mentioned the K-12 school districts and you, over the last few years, you had $8 million in savings. So is that the predicted energy savings from the energy efficiency projects, or is that the measured savings from the project? And I guess the follow-up question is, how close are the numbers, predicted and measured?
And that's a great question. That's why I love UD grads. They keep a guy like me conservative. So predicted was about 7.2 million. So realized was about 8 million. So what we have found is the first about 2 or 3 years of our business, we were really conservative, so we guaranteed savings. So we were exceeding the expected by about 20%. Now we've dropped down about 10% exceeding, but it's much easier to go back to a board meeting, to a treasurer, and say, hey, we saved you $100,000, not $92,000. So that's, appreciate the question. That's one of the great things, with our company and having engineers that know what they're doing, know how to estimate, know how to predict, and then partners to be able to implement the project as designed. So thank you for that question. One thing I do want to add, I'd be remiss if I didn't, just the whole conversation dating all the way back to the question that nice lady had earlier is, from my standpoint, renewable energy, I love it. It's great. It's sexy. But look at your fastest payback stuff first. Look at your lighting retrofits that can give you a 2-year, 2.5-year payback. If you're an investor in a 401k, or if you're guaranteed to get 30%, 40%, 50% ROI, return on your investment, are you not going to do that? So if you're in a building, especially a government building that's going to be here, or a university, why would you not invest into a building that you're going to guarantee to get 20%, 30%, 40% ROI before you do renewable energies? That's why I like what Mark and I are doing. We're combining the two, efficiency and renewable energy. But if you're only going to do one, make it more efficient first. Because then when you go back and put solar in, you're doing more of your overall load. So I had to get that. Sorry.
All right, one last question.
I agree that makes sense, but I think having the solar makes people look. And makes them more aware, and then maybe, so you could go either way with it, I think.
That was one of the biggest complaints we had from the first school system that we did, was we put the system on the roof and they were worried about aesthetics, so we put it in a spot where no one could see it, and now they're saying, gee, I really wish we could put something out there that the public could see that we're actually doing.
Right, no one drives by my house and says, man, he has geothermal, that's cool.
And that's why a lot of times you can do it 10, 15, 20 kW array to get the good positive PR
Right.
and education, from our standpoint, educate the kids with it too.
Plus, it's no meal, you could add on.
One amendment to my answer before, these are smaller companies in the state of Ohio, but Center for American Progress and then Pew Environment Center both released reports in the last 2 weeks. Center for American Progress and Pew Environment Center, and they talked to people throughout the state of Ohio. Some people involved in the wind industry, especially involved in producing turbines and things like that, and they asked these people about plans to invest, and these are businesses that had operations in other states as well. And the freeze, SB 310, has resulted in them making changes to their plans without investment in the state. So, pretty compelling reports. I don't know the issues in Ohio nearly as well as all of you in the market, but that was worth checking out.
Yeah. What I had read, and I don't have firsthand facts, which I was somewhat concerned about saying, but I do believe Amazon is investigating locating a facility here in Ohio. But in order to make it work with their corporate standards, they have to build put a major wind farm in Indiana instead of Ohio, which deprives Ohio of quite a bit of investment capital. So there's some very serious buyer's remorse because of the things you're talking about, of difficulty of attracting international firms, national firms. Okay, well, why don't we give one last round of applause to our panel. Bring our next panel up.